Today, we're going to talk about how to reframe a midlife crisis into what we're going to call a midlife quest. My name is Eric Orton. Welcome to the What Could Go Right podcast.
I'm Emily Orton.
And here we talk about how to help you thrive as a person, partner, and parent and make your midlife more meaningful.
And before we get into this midlife crisis versus quest, I just want to say welcome to February. In February, we celebrate Fezziwig Day. Fezziwig is the name of the sailboat that we lived on with our 5 kids, and going on that adventure truly was transformational for us. And so every year we celebrate on February 8th with cinnamon rolls. And how we want to celebrate with you is we'll want to invite you to sign up for a free discovery call to discover what's possible for you. Well, Eric will guide you in a conversation designed to draw out your dreams for your future you as a person, a partner, and a parent. And he's a serial dreamer, does all the dreams he comes up with, he makes them happen. So he is the right man to talk to if you have something on your heart that you wonder if it's actually possible. And for the first 10 people who sign up, we are going to be sending to your door cinnamon rolls in the continental US. If you sign up as one of the first 10 people to sign up for a discovery call after you hear this, you're going to receive cinnamon rolls to your door so you can celebrate Fezziwig Day with us.
Where do they go to sign up for a discovery call?
You're going to go to theawesomefactory.nyc/discovery. And if you want to go sailing with us, you can go to theawesomefactory.nyc/sailing 2024 and look into an adventure you or you and someone you love could go on this year.
Va-va-va-boom. Also, both of those landing pages have been updated with new fun information. So, check them out. It's a good read. It's a good look. Okay. All right.
There is a really funny joke at the end of the discovery call page. So
yeah, just scroll straight to the bottom. Skip all the info and just go for the joke. Totally worth it.
All right, let's talk about crisis versus quest.
Okay. Where did you want to start on this?
Well, I just think midlife always seems to be coupled with this phrase crisis. Like it's such an emergency, or like we're in a panic, or the cliche is that we've just realized that we're not going to live forever, and we're not really sure if we're excited about the life choices we've made up into now. And so we start engaging in all kinds of rash, irresponsible, and maybe even destructive behaviors. And it's kind of a joke, and it's really looked down upon. And I just have a totally different take on that. And I think as a society, we should just change the way that we view midlife. We say like, hey, I've got a few decades of experience under my belt, and I've had a shift in what I think matters most, or how I want to go about making connections, or making my contribution in the world, or leaving my mark. And, based on my experience, now that I'm in my prime, both mentally and physically, and with this wisdom I've gained over time, I've decided I want to go in a new direction, or I want to approach things in a little bit different way. And I just think we can have it be more of a quest. Like, now that I've obtained all of this knowledge and all of these skills and all of these relationships, what more can I do in the world?
I want to talk about 40.
Let's talk about 40.
So I was in a play in college, and one of the lines in the play, it was a comedy, and sort of the stodgy business owner in this place said, a man's, he was complaining about these 2 sales clerks that worked in his shop. And he's like, a man's not worth his salt until he's 40. Up until then, you're just paying him to make mistakes.
I love that. If you know the name of this show, like, put it in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube, you put it in the comments.
Yeah. So anyway, I was like, so a lot of times we're just figuring things out until we're 40. And I think our society in particular kind of celebrates young success, like if you haven't done it by 40, you're a loser, which is not
not true,
but
and
I think
not common.
We tend to hold up young success, people who, have breakthroughs, whether in entertainment or business. If they do it in their 20s and 30s, they're a prodigy. And that's kind of what we laud.
Mm-hmm.
When in fact, we're all going along gaining experiences that are going to serve us well. And we have a lot of life left in us after we're 40.
Not even halfway there.
And Emily and I say that as we're coming up on 50. And so I have loved my 40s.
Oh, it's been like the best decade yet.
Totally. And I expect 50s to top it.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
So when we were 40,
I was going to share something else, but anything that you wanted to say about that, the coming up on 40?
Oh yeah. Well, we are born 1 month apart. And so we move through these, these phases and these like social constructs about aging, and
together.
Yeah. We're always in the same spot. And I agree that 40 has been one of the best decades, and I just expect things to keep getting better at 50. And as I meet people who are decades older than me, the ones that I most want to imitate or be like are the ones who continue to have something that they're looking forward to, that they're trying to learn, that they want to contribute. And there's just so much life. I remember once I was in a parking lot in Yosemite National Park, and I saw a bumper sticker that said, "Live until you die." And that's how I feel about it.
Let's do it. Let's
just keep living. Let's go. Like,
okay.
That's just a number, but we do have a lot of emotions around that number. So tell us about 40.
Well, I was going to say before we hit record, you were talking about sort of the urge to do, like, when you kind of get into life and you're like, oh, I'm not happy with the way things are going. You compared it to a sugar craving. Tell that. Do you remember oh no, you said Donald. Okay, Donald Miller is a guy that we.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I know what you're talking about. So I watched this reel, and Donald Miller is an author and a businessman. He works in marketing and helps small businesses.
And we're going to meet him one day. Donald, if you're listening to this.
If you're friends with Donald Miller, let him know
up.
we want to get together.
We look forward to being on your podcast or having you on ours or hanging out. Anyway, sorry.
So he made this reel, and it said like how to handle a sugar craving. And so you're like, this isn't really his area of expertise, but let's see what he has to say.
He's not a nutrition specialist.
Yeah, he's not a nutritionist. He's not a baker. But he says, here's how you handle a sugar craving. If you feel like you want to eat a cookie, then eat a cookie, and then the sugar craving goes away. I don't know if that advice will work for every single person, but I kind of think about this, what most people call the midlife crisis, similar to that. It's like, as you're coming to, in your wisdom, recognize your mortality and how much more important time is than money, and that you want to have experiences and adventures, and you maybe don't want to be stuck on a conveyor belt or in a grind, all the way through to the end. And so you have this craving to burst out of your comfort zone. The way to handle that, and I think we are kind of experts in this area, is to actually plan an adventure. Actually do it. Like, start by just, small steps, Googling it, scouting trips, whatever. We talk all about that in our coaching and in our on-demand video programs. But I say, yeah, if you're having that urge for adventure, plan one. It's good for you. It's showing that you are human and that you're wired for growth and that you want to continue progressing. And I think one of the most awesome things about being a parent of teens and young adults is that as we see them cross that threshold into adulthood, and it's a little bit intimidating, but it's also very exciting, and their heads might be full of dreams of all the different things they want to do and try, it reminds us how we felt, and it brings that all up to the surface for us, which very often happens when we're in midlife and we're like, wait a minute, I had a whole bunch of dreams too, and I used to feel like anything was possible. And we want to say so much is possible. That's why we hold these discovery calls to help people figure out what actually is possible for you. Don't file it away in the someday, maybe never, filing cabinet.
That's like one
Pursue
word.
it.
Someday, maybe never.
Someday, maybe never. Am I right?
I think I love what you're saying about how the way to sort of deal with a craving is to just give into it. And that might sound really off-putting at first blush, but this is what I mean by it. Is like, if you're feeling like you want to change things up in your midlife, do it.
Explore that at least.
But there are destructive ways, and then there are constructive ways to do it. And the cliche is the guy who hates his job, so he, or he hates his marriage, so he like goes out and buys a stupid red sports car, and he gets a toupee or gets his hair done differently, and he ditches his family and finds a new wife, and like just goes off and like tries to change it, like
restart the whole thing.
Like he wants to feel young again, so he wants to have a different wife and a fast car, and I'm going to put that in the destructive category, because
could be under certain circumstances. Yeah.
We're generalizing here. That's a stereotype. And so I'll just say, changing up your life doesn't mean ditching your family, leaving your marriage, and going off and doing, spending your money frivolously on things that you always wanted to, that you never felt like you could. There are constructive ways. There are ways to really, bring your marriage to a new level that it's never been at before, to get your health. I was going to push back a little bit earlier. You're talking about how you're in your prime, when you come up to 40 and in your prime physical health. And I was like,
okay, maybe not everybody's
I
moving that direction, but it's still a possibility.
It is a possibility. And I was not when I turned 40, but in my 40th year, I got into the best shape of my life accidentally. And that's a whole other story. But just the point that you can pivot in a constructive way. And that's what I think, that's the magic.
Yeah.
Is to say, what are the things what's the cookie that you can eat that's good for you?
Yeah.
How can you kind of like, when I say give into that craving, do it, but do it in a way that's actually going to be beneficial to you and everyone that you care about.
Yeah. Yourself, your spouse, your family, like those feelings like you're having something that you want to look forward to, that you can work towards together, that will really connect you, and say, hey, maybe my spouse doesn't want to do this same thing, but this is a chance for them to support me as my biggest fan, or for me to support them as their biggest fan. And maybe other things have happened. Like you said, maybe you're not physically have the same capabilities that you did when you were younger. Maybe you've had an injury, or maybe you've had some kind of health complication that has reduced your physical capacities. And so it's a time to reset, realign, refocus, and say like, okay, this is me now. What do I want to aim for? And to still be have some drive, something that you are looking forward to and chasing after.
I want to share one example about that. There's a lady that's going sailing with me that's super cool. It's going to be fun. And her husband, they're happily married, but he doesn't want to go. Mm-hmm. So she's going. She's going to bring somebody else that she wants to travel with, and she's coming with a family member, and they're going to meet up, afterwards and hang out at the spot that we're going to go sailing. And I just think it was kind of a light bulb moment for her when she's like, oh, you know what, we can still be, happily married and have dreams that are where we can support. They're different dreams, but we can still support each other. And so just that I think there's a maturity. Midlife crisis doesn't have to be a regression into adolescence. It can be a step forward into a new kind of maturity, mm-hmm. of pursuing something that calls to you. And it doesn't mean throwing caution to the wind. It doesn't mean reckless abandon. It can be positive growth. And so I would just say that, going back to the stereotype of the cliche, the stereotype and cliche is a regression. Whereas the impulse that a midlife crisis comes from can be an invitation into a more mature, more sophisticated, more capable version of yourself, rather than trying to get back to some glory days that you feel like you missed. It can be a step into your best days, to your glorious days.
Best is yet to come. When you have a growth mindset, the best is always yet to come. And speaking of this woman who has different interests from her husband, she's going to be gone for like a week. And when she goes back, it's going to be an experience of revitalization. Like she's going to inject all of those new experiences into the conversations that she's going to have with her husband who is so dear to her. And he's going to be so proud of her, but he's going to be glad he didn't go because it's not his thing. And she's going to be closer to this other family member. And it's just going to open their eyes up to how they can, support each other and cheer each other on, and that they don't have to be the exact same person. They can have different interests. Even if you've been married for many decades, you can, pursue different interests, and that can make your relationship with each other more exciting.
So depending on where you're at in midlife, if you're coming up on something that feels like a breaking point, a midlife crisis, we would invite you to reframe it as a call to a midlife quest. And where do you want that quest to take you, and how can it take you forward instead of backward? Anything else you want to say about?
I love that. I'd love to hear your takeaways. If you want to drop them into the comments or share them in, your ratings and reviews of the podcast, let us know what has been valuable for you. And we always love to end this podcast with the question, what could go right? And I want to remind you that one of the answers to that question could be cinnamon rolls to your door. If you want to sign up at theawesomefactory.nyc/discovery, and the link will be in the show notes, sign up for a discovery call. Let's find out what's possible for you. And it might include, if you are in the continental US and one of the first 10 people to sign up, cinnamon rolls to your door.
Cinnamon rolls and sailing. Go to our website /sailing 2024 to get the skinny on sailing this year. So cinnamon rolls and sailing.
Yeah, so many fun opportunities. If that could scratch that itch for adventure and growth that you're interested in. Like, people are loving these trips and coming away, if not transformed, some of them definitely transformed, inspired to pursue transformation of their choosing.
I just came up with a third option.
Oh.
Cinnamon rolls on the sailboat.
Whoa. As the meal planner, I'm going to have to look into that. We'll see what we can do.
Awesome. Hey, thanks for listening. What could go right?